The more the media just let it out of the closet exactly what they are, the more the blowback is coming. And it's going to come against the media too. There's a reason that right-wing media are growing. And we will continue to grow here at Daily Wire because people don't want to get their news from a bunch of partisan hacks who won't announce that they are even partisan. We here at the Daily Wire acknowledge we're conservative. I've told you, go listen to Pod Save America, go listen to my show, and then where we agree on the fact pattern, that's the fact. Everything else is opinion. And nobody on the left will do that because they are liars, because they lie about their own agenda. It's not just they lie about the facts. They lie about their own agenda. I don't lie about my agenda. You know my agenda the moment you set foot in hearing range of this show. But the media just lie to you, and they lie consistently, and they lie with narrative. It's happening over and over and over. Another example. So, over the weekend, there was a rather major story. But it's not a major story, because here's the way it works when it comes to crime stories. If there is a crime story that backs the media narrative that America is systemically racist and evil, and filled with white supremacist right-wingers, then that's a national story. If a person who is not moving along with that narrative commits a murder in a high-profile fashion, that's not a national news story, that's a local news story. So if a white person kills a black person on the street, that's a national story because it underscores the idea that America is evil and systemically racist, and how could we be such a terrible country? If a black person kills a white person on the street, which in terms of statistical probability is actually more likely to happen, that's not a national story, that's a local news story. Okay, perfect example over the weekend. It turns out that there was an attack on the U.S. Capitol Police. A member of U.S. Capitol Police was killed by a person who drove a car into two U.S. Capitol Police officers, then got out of his vehicle with a knife, and then he was shot by the police. The immediate response by the media, by many in the media, was this has to be some sort of white supremacist, right? This has to be a QAnon guy or something. Well, it turns out not. It turns out that the attacker was a 25-year-old black man who was a follower of Louis Farrakhan's Nation of Islam. This person's Facebook page described himself as a follower of Farrakhan, in which he said that Farrakhan was Jesus. He said that he was his spiritual father, and he called himself Noah X. Many Twitter accounts initially rushed to assume the attack was carried out by a white supporter of former President Trump. But the minute that it turned out that this was a Louis Farrakhan supporter, boom, it was gone from the media. You haven't heard about it at all. You haven't heard about it at all. Just as many police officers were killed this week at the U.S. Capitol as were killed on January 6th. And there was one police officer, we still don't know how he died. We don't know if he was murdered at the Capitol, but Officer Brian Sicknick died, maybe presumably. I mean, again, the facts are still coming out during the January 6th attacks. And a U.S. Capitol police officer was just murdered over the weekend. It is not a national news story because of the identity of the perpetrator. The media have decided it's not a national news story because they are partisan hacks, because all they care about is the Democrat-leaning narrative. And let me just tell you this. If that had been a Donald Trump supporter, every Republican in America would have been asked about how your vote for Donald Trump effectuated this kind of thing. But this person was a follower of Louis Farrakhan. Will a single Democrat who's met with Louis Farrakhan be asked about this? Will a single Democrat who's made nice with Louis Farrakhan, I'm talking about Representative Hank Johnson, I'm talking about Rashida Tlaib, I'm talking about Ilhan Omar, I'm talking about all the Democratic members who have been warm with figures from Nation of Islam, will any of those people be asked at all about their association with a person of that ideology? No, don't be silly. Don't be silly. Because that, of course, is a local news story. Facts don't care about your feelings, and it's a fact that The Ben Shapiro Show is the largest conservative podcast in the nation. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all of our content.